This is Albert Oldeviv. He is 50 years old and he has been reading the newspaper since he was a little boy at home. He began reading newspapers because his father always had one at home in the mornings, and it became a tradition for him to leave the paper for Albert after he was finished. Albert began by reading the funnies and evolved to current events as he got older. Albert feels that his knowledge about the world and current affairs is well balanced. He reads two different newspapers regularly, one that he subscribes to every day and the other which he gets on the subway for free on his way to work. He sometimes watches the news, but usually only has time to read, and is uncomfortable enough with computers that he does not read the news online. Mila Youngbarall is 15 years old and hasn't read a physical newspaper for many years. Like most modern young teenagers, she prefers to get her information online. Her first source is Facebook, where in the morning she scans through a news feed that Facebook has customized to her. As Facebook puts it, there are often articles posted by her friends or by Facebook pages that she has liked. Some are silly, such as cute cat videos, controversial, weird, and some push causes that she may or may not be interested in. Often when Mila sees an article, she can like it and follow links to it. Now the new article is added to her newsfeed and she will begin to receive more posts that are similar. Some Facebook articles also lead to blogs, where an author has written extensively about an issue. These can include videos, feedback forums, links, and pictures. When Mila has a few minutes waiting in line at a store or for the bus, she uses her phone to check up on Twitter, which also has a mix of entertaining tweets, events happening around town, and news. Both of these people are getting the news in a way that seems legitimate. But who is getting a better cross-section with less bias, objective examinations, multiple perspectives, and accurate facts? Why is this important, and what does this have to do with education? Historically, people in North America report that they trust newspapers because they have been around a long time and develop reputations. A reader can hold the author of an article accountable because the author or journalist works for the paper and can be tracked down. Actually, that was the case when online news sources were new 15 years ago. But longitudinal studies have shown that as people become familiar and comfortable with online news, they trust it more. Currently, people trust online sources as much as newspapers. Maybe this is because the interactivity of the internet allows writers to place links to references to back up their claims. You can see this when you look up a Wikipedia article. Just scroll to the bottom and follow the links. If Mila Youngbarall wants to have the skills necessary to determine the legitimacy of reference links, how will she learn them? Does Albert Oldeviv even have the ability to check the sources of newspaper articles he reads? If he wanted to, he could call the newspaper to check their sources, but most people don't because it takes too much effort. Mila can check sources by clicking a button. In online blogs, articles, and news items, often the author is directly accessible by the reader, who can write a comment and receive a reply, because everything online is interactive. This adds legitimacy to online and social media news by opening it up to criticism. There are some problems with that too. If you read comments on news sites, blogs, and YouTube, they can number in the thousands and overwhelm the author. If people don't like the article, the anonymity of the internet allows them to write very nasty comments, leading to the need for comment moderation. Teens such as Mila Youngbarall interact with news like this every day, including writing their own content and replying to comments. This strengthens the justification for educating about online safety and critical thinking. Another problem with newspapers is that a reader might be reading one with an intentional political leaning, liberal, conservative, or built-in biases, with the intent of convincing readers of their value judgments or the values of the owners. This can leave the reader with a one-sided view of an issue. Someone using online news is capable of reading many articles on a topic which may give several perspectives. They don't just get two sides of the story, but rather as many sides of the story as there are opinions. If Mila has access to so many points of view, how does she form a well-balanced opinion? If she has learned from an early age through school, this task presents no problem for her. With both newspapers and online news, images can be altered to suit the needs of the writer. There have been several high-profile cases where photojournalists were fired for altering their pictures, and the internet is rife with false images. Try visiting the website reddit.com's section called Photoshop Battles, where members alter photos for fun as a way to see how easy it is. Twitter has led to citizen journalism, where ordinary users who are close to the event may take a photo or video on their cell phones, then tweet it. Often these people get to the event before the journalist and can be the source of breaking news. These news stories spread faster than traditional news because of the instant nature of the internet. A criticism of this is that citizen journalists are not subjected to the same ethics or accountability that a journalist might be. Newspaper and television news networks monitor social media and use it as a source for routine reporting and as an indispensable tool for news gathering, which can lead to problems. Here's a short clip from the podcast Canada Land by Jesse Brown, introducing a situation where this got way out of hand.
I want to start with a message to those of you listening to this in Alberta. Albertans, are you guys okay? Is everything okay after the riots? I mean, I read about it. I'm reading now from a Huffington Post story. Albertans are rising up against Tim Hortons. Dear God, national news story. Albertans are rising up against Tim Hortons after the coffee and donut chain pulled ads for energy giant Enbridge from its locations. The national news attention on this protest, which I think physically manifested in at least 6 people, maybe even 24, protesting outside of a Tim Hortons location in Calgary, it got attention on the scale of the tens of thousands of students who protested in Montreal. How did this happen?
This is how it happened. Originally, when Tim Hortons ran ads for Enbridge on televisions in their restaurants, there was an online petition by environmental groups with 30,000 signatures to get those ads removed. As a result, Tim Hortons complied. In response, a handful of oil sector supporters protested the pulling of the Enbridge ads. A conservative strategist named Stephen Taylor used the hashtag #BoycottTims on Twitter, getting some support from 3 federal ministers: Pierre Poilievre, the Minister of Employment and Social Development; Michelle Rempel, Canada's Minister for Western Economic Diversification; and Jason Kenney, Canada's Defence Minister. Within 1 hour, it blew up on Twitter, gaining momentum and becoming the #1 Twitter trending topic in Canada. So in one situation, there were actual people protesting an issue, the environmentalists. In another, there was a manufactured crisis created by political operatives. News organizations, including the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, and the Huffington Post, picked up on what was happening in Twitter and reported on it. In the online world, people can manufacture controversy to try to impact policy. So we can't trust online news either. What can we do as educators? Which one is better? Maybe a combination of both newspapers and online news is the right answer. Who's getting the better point of view? Mila Youngbarall or Albert Oldeviv? Who is the better citizen? As an educator, it is our responsibility to teach our students about citizenship and balanced media consumption. We can't rely on parents because they themselves might not be very good at it and are not accountable to curriculum. Children as young as 5 are accessing the internet. And students as young as 8 are actively engaging with other people online through chat rooms, games, and forums. They need guidance to stay safe online. School boards and the BC Ministry of Education do encourage this kind of thing, but their policies are slow to adopt the online world and barely contain any guidance for dealing with media consumption.